Hello viewers, in this episode we are discussing about meaning and definitions of travel and tourism. Traveling has been the basic instinct in man. Man has been moving from place to place in search of food since the time immemorial. Even during the prehistoric period, man was moving from place to place mainly in search of food and for hunting. Every human settlement has a long tradition of visits by outsiders like traders and missionaries. The practice and precept of tourism have been passed through a long process. It can be traced to development of civilization and technological advancement. It is based on man's curiosity to know about new things. This episode deals with the following 5 aspects of tourism. The first one is traditional definition of travel and tourism. Second, concepts of tourism. Third, tourism as defined by UNWTO. Fourth, Indian definition. Fifth, approaches to study of tourism. First one, traditional definition of travel and tourism. In simple word, moving from one place to another place is travel. The modes of transport may be on land, water or by air. But the tourism is a comprehensive which includes a number of activities. It is an ever expanding service industry with vast growth potential. Therefore, it has become one of the most important and crucial concern of not only a nation but also of international community as a whole. In fact, it has come up as a decisive link in gearing up the pace of socio-economic development world over. Hence, it has become an important factor in the growth strategies of both developed and developing countries. It is being perceived as an important instrument of economic development. Most of these countries have sought the answer by developing tourism through harnessing their historical, social, cultural and environmental resources. Emergence of tourism as a fuel for economic development has been universally accepted. Concept of tourism. The term smokeless industry has become very popular concept for tourism. Notionally, tourism is a phenomenon which means the movement of people both within the country and outside the national border. It basically consists of 3 elements. They are man, space and time. These 3 elements are the prerequisites for any tourism activities. There is a clear difference between tourism travel and other types of travel. Next is tourism system. The scale and scope of tourism industry has widened to such an extent that it has emerged as an industrial giant with potential to grow further. This has been made possible because of technological advancements leading to greater economic activities and surplus income. On account of larger employment opportunities and higher income, people have more time and inclination to travel. With the revolution in information technology, tourism has been further facilitated. Advanced reservation in hotels, car rentals, air, trains and bus tickets have made travelling more comfortable, enjoyable and easy. Next is social aspect of tourism. Tourism activities are not confined only to economic aspects, but it also encompasses socio-cultural aspects as well. The most important social phenomenon which has influenced tourism is increase in the longevity of individual. The problem of utilization of leisure time has assumed greater importance in case of senior citizens. Since the senior citizens gets concession in rates of travel, they prefer to travel more, which leads to more tourism activities. Second, components of tourism. Tourism is largely considered for its economic, social, ecological and cultural edifice of a nation. Two aspects of tourism, namely its capacity to generate employment both direct and indirect and its potential to earn foreign exchange for the host country, have made all countries to desire for the development of tourism. The main elements in the process of tourism are man, space and time. As such, it has serious implications of socio-economic nature along with environmental factors. In a significant sense, it is one of the most influential phenomenon in the economic and social development of the country. There is hardly any other economic factor which generates as much added value at such a loss as tourism. Tourist. The word tourist has been originated from the Latin word turnus, which means a tool for describing a circle or a turner's wheel. In this sense, a tourist is a person who undertakes a circular trip, that is, ultimately coming back to the place from where he sets out his journey. During 17th and 18th century, the British, the Germans and other Europeans travelling on a grand tour to the European continent came to be recognized as tourists. Around 19th century, the term tourist took on the connotation for one who makes a tour for recreation and pleasure. According to Chambers' Encyclopedia, tourist is a person who takes travel for holiday making or pleasure. Tourism is also defined as movement of people away from their normal place of residence. Then, two questions arises: at what distance and for what purpose? Of the various attempts for systematic defining of tourism, one of the earliest was by Professor Unzicker and Kraft of Bern University in 1942. Tourism should be defined as the sum total of phenomenon and relationship arising from the travel and stay of non-resident and are not concerned with any earning activity. Although this definition was accepted in the beginning, but later a number of questions were raised about the applicability of this definition to one-day excursion. In the second quarter of previous century, League of Nations gave a definition of tourist as one who travels for a period of 24 hours or more in a country other than that in which he usually resides. This definition took into consideration the purpose of visit and supposed to include for pleasure, health, business, etc. But it fails to take into account of domestic tourists. Taking over the thread, the International Union of Official Tour Operators gave certain recommendations in this regard in the United Nations Conference on International Travel and Tourism held at Rome in 1963. In the conference, it was agreed to introduce the term visitors to describe any person visiting a country other than that in which he has his usual place of residence. It was agreed to clarify the visitors into the following two categories. Tourists, a temporary visitor staying at least 24 hours or more for the purpose of leisure, recreation, sports, study, religion, family, mission, business, conference or meeting, etc. Excursionist, a temporary visitor staying less than 24 hours but excluding traveller at transit. A study group of Institute of Tourism in Britain, now called as Tourism Society, tried to interpret the concept of tourism in 1976 as tourism is a temporary short-term movement of people to destinations outside the places where they normally live and work. It includes movement for all purposes as well as a day visit or excursion. This definition was further refined at the international conference organized by Tourism Society of Britain in 1981 held at Cardiff. According to reformed version, tourism may be defined in terms of particular activities selected by choice and undertaken outside the home environment and place of work. It may or may not include overnight stay away from home. Third, United Nations World Tourism Organization. It is shortly called as UNWTO. The International Conference on Travel and Tourism, convened by the United Nations World Tourism Organization, held in Ottawa, Canada in 1991, reviewed, updated and expanded the definition given by various persons and institutions earlier. The Ottawa Conference made some fundamental recommendations on the definitions on travel and tourism. UNWTO has officially accepted the following definition. Tourism comprises the activities of persons travelling to and staying in places outside their usual environment for not more than one consecutive year for leisure, business, sports, adventure, health, recreations and any other purpose. This is intended to exclude trips within the area of usual residence. Frequent and regular trip between the residence and workplace and other routine trips. Mr. McIntosh and Mr. Geoldner, in the process of defining tourism in 1990, have identified 4 different perspectives of tourism. The first one is the tourist. He looks for diverse psychic and physical experiences and satisfactions from the tourism activities. The nature of this experience depends upon the destination chosen and the activity participated in. Second is the business catering the requisite goods and services to tourists make profit. Third, the government of the host country in case of international traveller looks tourism as a foreign exchange earner. Fourth, the host community most often consider tourism as a means of employment and a source of income generation. Thus, tourism is an activity of multidimensional, multifaceted nature involving large number of people and a good number of economic activity. In other words, it can be regarded as a whole range of activities concerning individuals, business, organizations and destinations to create a travel experience. Therefore, the definition of tourism is too complicated as it involves complex activities. All the definitions may be summarized as follows. Tourism involves the movement of people to different places and their stay outside their residence and normal place of work. Tourism essentially consists of 2 factors, they are travel and stay. Travel and stay shall be outside the place of work or residence. The movement to destination should be temporary in nature. The purpose of visit may be leisure, recreation, health, pleasure, education, business, sports, adventure, family and any other purpose, but should not be for employment and seeking permanent residence. It is basically to get new experience and a pleasure activity to enjoy. Fourth one, Indian definition of travel and tourism. There are some differences between the definition given by UNWTO and those followed in India. An international visitor or a foreign tourist has been defined as a person holding a foreign passport visiting the country. The main purpose of his or her visit should be other than earning in India or establishing a permanent residence in India. In other words, the purpose of travel to India may be for any one of the following reasons. They may be for recreations, holiday, education, religion, sports, adventures, health, business, visiting friends and relatives, meetings, conferences, missions, leisure, etc. The following persons are not regarded as tourists: persons arriving in India with or without contract to take up an occupation or engage in remunerative activities, persons coming to India to establish permanent residence in India, national of Nepal entering India through land routes, all foreigners entering India through Bhutan by land routes. Excursionist is a visitor staying less than 24 hours in a country, including cruise passengers. All the above definitions stipulate that the person must hold a foreign passport to be called as a foreign tourist. The categorization is based on nationality rather than the place of residence. It implies that Indians staying abroad coming to India are not considered as international traveller, but UNWTO definition treats them as international traveller. This deviation is mainly due to the assumption that the traveller holding Indian passport will tend to stay with their family and friends. As a result, there may not be demand for tourism infrastructure like transport, hotel, entertainment, etc. Next is domestic tourist. A domestic tourist has been defined as a person who travels within the country to places other than usual place of work or residence. They should stay for not less than 24 hours and not more than 6 months for any of the following reasons: pleasure, religion, mission, social and cultural functions, business, conferences, seminars, workshops and meetings, education, research, health, sports, entertainments and recreations. Next is tourism. When we think of tourism, we think primarily of the people who are visiting a particular place for sightseeing, visiting friends and relatives, taking a vacation and having good time. They may spend their leisure time engaging in various cultural activities, sports activities, adventurous activities, sunbathing, singing, taking rides and enjoying their times. In this context, tourism may be defined as a process, activities and outcomes arising from the relationship and the interactions among the tourists, tourism suppliers, host communities and surrounding environments that are involved in these activities. Tourism consists of a number of activities and services that deliver a travel experience. It encompasses all providers of visitors and visitors related activities. Therefore, tourism has a multidimensional aspect which makes it very difficult to give a practice definition. Fifth one, approaches to study tourism. Technical definitions based on the purpose of travel, distance travelled, motivations for travel, duration of the stay, the time element and specific situations of travel, etc. have been worked out for the purpose of particular tourism related studies and statistical measurements. These definitions are of great significance to tourism providers, government and organizations engaged in tourism activities. But these studies have not included a system approach. Tourism is widely studied by means of a number of processes involved in it. The following are different approaches that are being practiced for the study of tourism. First one is product approach. It relates to the consideration of different tourism products involving the mode of production, marketing and consumption. For example, a person may stay in hotel, take food, rent a car, travel by bus, train or flight, but he may not think of how these tourism products are manufactured. who are the owners, how it is financed, how it is developed, how are they managing it, etc. But under the product approach, these details are given to the tourists. Second one is institutional approach. This is the key approach to the study of tourism. It mainly takes into consideration the various organizations or institutions and intermediaries such as tour operators, travel agencies engaged in tourism activities. This approach involves an examination of organization, modus operandi, problems, cost and economic position of travel operators who act as representatives of customers. This approach becomes significant in the sense that a regular survey on selected services helps in equipping a database for further research. Third is managerial approach. This approach is basically consists of enterprise or firm or organization oriented. It concentrates on management activities such as planning, research, pricing, marketing, controlling, etc. It is very vital in tourism activities and tourist establishment. It is a simple concept that tourism environment is dynamic owing to continuous change in the tourism product. This is due to changes in the lifestyle of and the taste of customers. Therefore, it becomes inevitable for the management to change its philosophies and procedures to suit the customer's needs. This approach maintains its weight in the modern tourism scenario as tourism has become very fast changing industry. Fourth one, geographical approach. This approach is relatively wider as well as popular because tourism has much to do with geography. Geographical approach to tourism elucidates the location of tourist area, the movement of people generated by tourist destination, changes in the landscape emerging from creating new destinations, etc. It is mainly concerned with location, climate, landscape, environment, physical as well as its economic impact. This approach especially gains importance because tourism has direct relation to land use. Demographic and cultural impact, geographers have coined a new title, recreational geography. Next is fifth one, sociological approach. Tourism tends to be a social activity as it involves an interaction between different communities, mainly between guests and hosts. This approach studies social and cultural aspects of tourism on the local community, change in their habits, customs and traditions and its impact on the community. Sixth one, historical approach. As in the majority of social activities, tourism can be thoroughly perceived by making out the happenings and occurrence and studying changes in the destination system. Mr. Pearce identifies the following factors in providing a comprehension of tourism development in historical context for a specific area or a region. The first one is factors responsible for the tourism development of the area. Second one, the order of happening for the tourism development. Third, the reasons for happenings of occurrence in that order. Fourth, beneficiaries of tourism activities. Fifth, identifications of negative effect of tourism. And the seventh approach is economic approach. Tourism promotion is ever increasingly being perceived as a potent ingredient in various developmental strategies. Tourism activities are a complex of various interlinked and interacting processes. The scope of tourism is quite large, covering all providers of visitors and visitors related services. It is a whole world of industry of travel, accommodation, catering, hospitality services, transportation, entertainments and all other components that are required to meet the requirements of tourists. Therefore, tourism is a synthesis of activities and services that gives a new experience. The sum total of all these direct impact on the economy of the region or that area. Eighth one is interdisciplinary approach. Tourism embraces virtually all aspects of our society. We have cultural heritage tourism that call for an anthropological approach. People behave in different ways and travel for different reasons. It is necessary to use a psychological approach to determine the best way to promote and market tourism products. Political institutions are involved in tourism. If in any region or country there is a problem of law and order, people may not travel to that area. Every state and country may pass its own legislation to preserve and protect their people and environment. In other words, tourism is so vast and complex, so multifaceted in that it is required to have a number of approaches to study tourism in depth. Ninth one is system approach. A system is a set of interrelated groups coordinated to accomplish a set of goals. It integrates other approaches into a comprehensive method dealing with both micro and macro issues. It can examine the tourist firm's competitive environment, its market and its results. This approach brings linkage with other organizations and the interactions with the consumer. In addition, a system can take a macro viewpoint and examine the entire tourism system of a state or a country. Next is conclusion. Man has been moving from place to place in search of food since the time immemorial. Even during the prehistoric period, man was moving from place to place mainly in search of food and for hunting. In simple word, moving from one place to another place is travel. The modes of transport may be on land, water or by air. But the tourism is a comprehensive term which includes a number of activities. Tourism is largely considered for its economic, social, ecological and cultural edifice of a nation. Two aspects of tourism, namely its capacity to generate employment both direct and indirectly and its potential to earn foreign exchange for the host country, have made all countries to desire for the development of tourism. Tourist is a temporary visitor staying at least 24 hours or more for the purpose of leisure, recreation, sports, study, religion, family, mission, business, conference or meeting, etc. Excursionist is a temporary visitor staying less than 24 hours but excluding traveller at transit. Tourism comprises the activities of persons travelling to and staying in places outside their usual environment for not more than one consecutive year for leisure, business, sports, adventure, health, recreations and any other purpose. Thank you.